Hello and welcome to the Helping Friendly podcast, this Monday morning edition. And as it is the 25th of July, we are remiss to say happy anniversary to the second greatest fish show of all time, July 25th, 1999. Kevin Shapiro, if you are out there in the world, in the internet, we would do anything for you to release this show in crisp soundboard quality. There's one of us, at least one of us, who would freak out about it. And if any of you out there in niche podcast land would freak out as well, do not hold back. State your case. July 25th, 99, Deer Creek. Come on, guys. You know what I'm talking about? No, I'm just
Yes,
yelling
Brian.
into silence. I'm just yelling into the void right now.
I do know what you're talking about, and I'm surprised that you had some thoughts on this, but it's okay with me. It's okay.
It's a holiday around these parts, you know.
I know. I thought you were going to say 725.92 because of that Santana sit-in, even though it was only one set. But that's not where you're going, which I understand. I think it's a good call. How you guys doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I mean, I'm good. I missed you guys. You know, we haven't. I've been. Last week we had our amazing show at the Ardmore on Monday. Thank you, Megan, for coming.
So
and then
fun.
We had the man shows, and then I was traveling, and I feel like I haven't been talking with you guys in a while, and there's a lot to talk about. So I'm glad to be back. Finally, you know.
We missed you, RJ.
Thank you.
Missed you guys really too. Good to see your face with a microphone in front of it. I don't see it enough these days.
That's what some people might say. There's a lot happening.
There's a lot happening. So we are diving in today. We're diving in today to Fish's single night performance from Hartford, Connecticut, 7/24/2022. We have a great round of guests lined up here today. Got Marco Aguizzi, who can be found on Twitter at Marco Aguizzi, and Derek Hartley, returning guest to the podcast, who can be found on Twitter at Dr. Hartley1. Really excited to dive in with those guys. We're going to answer some really difficult questions here today. Like, if I look at a show on paper and I don't like what the words say, do I have to listen?
Yes.
Or if I listen to a show and don't look at the words on the paper, do I get to like the show? These are very complicated questions that are being debated around the Twitter world right now, and we have to answer them. That is our responsibility. Are you guys up for it today?
I think so. I think I followed what you were saying.
I'm ready. I got confused with the double negatives, but I think what you're saying
exactly. I think you're talking about the fish show last night, so I'm ready to talk about that.
I just want to. There's a lot of anger out there, and I just, we're here to bring the volume, the temperature down. We are not here to just throw salt on the wound and just let things go crazy. We are here to make sure that everybody's having a good time. That's our goal. And to do so, 7/25/17 is a good show, but it's already been released, Jonathan. It's already been released. Okay, it was released the night after it happened, or the night that it happened. We do want to tell you, though, before we jump into the show, we got a couple bits of business before we bring on our incredible guests to answer the difficult questions that we are tasked with answering. We do want to tell you, though, about our very, very, very good friends at Passion House Coffee. Did you know that at Osiris Media, we're powered by a few things? Music, of course. We love music. We talk a bit about music here and there, but also coffee. We are always drinking Passion House coffee, and now we have our very own blend, the Ocean of Osiris. Rolls off the tongue. Also rolls off Trey's tongue when he's singing songs like Gula Papyrus.
Yeah.
We want you all out there to visit passionhousecoffee.com to get some of this blend, as well as some of their other incredible coffee. Use the code OSIRIS. For those of you who are not looking at your screen right now, OSIRIS, for free shipping on every order. We also have, and this is really exciting, this is happening live. It's been happening for the last 10, 11 days, a contest that is running all summer tour long. For each fish show, we will be giving away bags of the Ocean of Osiris coffee every time Fish plays an Ocean song. sometimes, like last night, they say, hey, let's just play a bunch of ocean songs. We're just going to keep doing it. Just ocean song after ocean song. Every time you hear an ocean song, tag at HFPod as well as Passion House Coffee at Passion House Coffee on Twitter and use the hashtag Ocean of Osiris. We'll select winners at random each night if they play ocean songs. And today we have a winner. Today's winner, congratulations to Mr. Scott Weiss, who can be found on Twitter at Scott__ Weiss. You've won some Ocean of Osiris coffee. It's a pretty awesome
Scott.
thing.
Good job. Congrats.
That's WISE.
WISE.
I would have said wise.
Yeah.
Would you have said wise? Scott Wise? Yeah. I guess he could be very wise. Scott Wise.
Congrats, Scott. Thanks.
Great job.
Thanks for playing.
Thanks for playing. Thanks for hanging. Thank you to Passion House Coffee for being an incredible sponsor. We also want to tell all of you out there about our good friends over at Wook Plus. They have excellent content throughout Summer Tour. The Lot starts up this Wednesday, about an hour or so before showtime. Good hangout with random folks throughout the fish community, good chatter about what's happening within the world of fish. And then the After Fish after show is live, 15 minutes post show. Watch both of these on Twitter at Wook Plus, as well as on YouTube. Just search for Wook Plus. I will be on it this upcoming weekend. Jonathan was on it last weekend. Megan was on it before. It's a good hang with those dudes. Awesome, awesome guys. I am, apparently. RJ, would you like to tell us about a few of our upcoming live events?
I would like to, and we will get to our review, but we got to tell you guys, I'm starting to get ready for AC. Although I'll see Megan this Friday in Raleigh, and then I'm going to Meriwether too. So this weekend is just going to be awesome. But next weekend, Fish is coming to the beach. You already know that. If you don't have tickets yet, go to osirispod.com/AC. And we are going to have a full weekend of free events. On Saturday, we're going to be at the Anchor Rock Club from 2 to 4 p.m. We're going to do a recap of the first night, and then we're going to hear the Disco Biscuits guitarist John Barber play an acoustic set for us. We're also going to interview him about his music. They just put out a bunch of new music. He's a great dude, and that should be a lot of fun. And then on Sunday, August 7th, same place, Anchor Rock Club. We're working with the auction platform Whatnot, which is the internet's fastest growing collectible marketplace, to hold an auction benefiting Water Wheel Foundation. So there is a bunch of amazing stuff headed to my house right now, including posters, shirts, vinyl, hard to find memorabilia. And we're going to auction that all off while discussing fish. So it'll be like a live auction / discussion. And this is all going to be at Anchor Rock Club, Saturday 2 to 4, Sunday 2 to 4. And thanks to our sponsors at Tonewood Brewing for helping us do this. Their amazing beers are going to be on tap there, as they were at the Ardmore and many other places. But you can find out more about this by going to osirispod.com/AC. Okay, two more. If you're going to the Alpine Valley shows, or if you live in the Midwest or in Milwaukee or in that general area, Chicago, Brian's from Chicago.
I like Chicago.
I live in Chicago. We can talk more about Chicago, but we'll do that another time. We are going to be hosting a special event with Riley Walker at the Cooperage on Thursday, August 11th, the night before the Alpine Valley shows. Brian and I are going to interview Riley Walker, and then he's going to play a full set of music. It's going to be entertaining, enlightening, exciting, and we would like to see you there. So go to osirispod.com/Milwaukee to check out tickets for that event. Lastly, Wednesday, August 31st, we're going to have Taper's Choice in Denver. Same thing, interview and a bunch of music. Brian and Jonathan are going to be interviewing Taper's Choice, and then they're going to play a set of music. And this is going to be amazing as well. osirispod.com/Denver. So AC, Milwaukee, Denver. See you there. Maybe we'll see you at all of them.
Maybe we'll see it all of them. So much happening, and going to be an incredible end to Summer Tour. AC, Milwaukee, Denver. Very, very excited about that. Anything else before we bring on our incredible guest here today? I think that's we're ready to go. That's a lot. Hope you all were taking notes out there. Okay. Taking notes of what ocean songs you should be listening to, taking notes on what coffee you should be buying. Let's go ahead here. We're going to bring on Marco and Derek. to talk about Hartford Sunday night. Hartford Fish, guys. Hartford Fish. Marco, Derek, welcome to the pod. How are you guys doing?
I'm excellent, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing very, very well. Thank you, guys.
Doing excellent. Thanks for having me back.
Absolutely.
Yay.
So let's dive into this the only way that we know how. Marco, what shows have you seen on this overall tour? And what have kind of been your overall impressions of Fish's Summer 2022 thus far?
I've been to every summer show this tour except for Bangor. I think it's been excellent. I was in the pit for Mansfield, which was great because I didn't have to be on the Mansfield lawn. And then after that, Philly, it was my first time at the Man. And then Bethel it pretty much proved why a music venue can be great when it's not Mansfield. I'm originally from the Massachusetts area, so that's my home venue, and I'm allowed to complain about it. But it's been great. I think Fish has been outstanding this tour. I know that micro jamming has been a topic of discussion on this podcast before. I think that they're kind of combining the micro jamming and the macro jamming, where they have some tracks that jam for like 13 minutes. I'm thinking of Blaze On Last Night, and it still can get there. And then they have the jams that really get there. And I'm thinking about some of the other jams from last night. I think they're firing on all cylinders. I am excited to say that last night was my 50th show, and my first time back to Hartford since my first show. So it
that's fun.
Came full circle. The ocean is love, and it was a lot of fun.
That's always awesome. Cool when it works out that like those big shows happen, like those big sentimental shows happen at like a very specific place. I love that. That's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely.
Derek, how about you? What have you seen so far this tour? We know you were with us for the banger recap, but what else have you seen, and what have your impressions been of the tour?
So I did both nights Mansfield and then Bangor, and then worked this week like a real true human, at home, like pretending to be a normal person again, waiting for last night. So last night was my fourth and unfortunately final of the summer. So
it's always that like there's that sadness that creeps on when I'm walking into the lot for the last time. I'm walking into the show for the last time. It's the last set, all that sort of stuff.
Well, especially because at least in my view, they seem to be on a bit of an upward trajectory right now, especially after last night and Bethel too, like those two shows back to back. I mean, I didn't. Like yesterday morning leaving, like as soon as we left the house, we threw Bethel 2 on so we could listen to that for the ride to Hartford, and we were just like, wow. Like part of you is like, I mean, anytime I want Fish to be good anytime, even when I'm not there, because it's better for everyone. You have all this music to listen to, so even when I'm not there, I want it to be great. But when you are listening to a show like that on the way there, you're like, oh man, that second set last night, like how are they going to top that? Are they even going to come close? That type of thing. But like I said, I feel like they're on an upward trajectory right now, so I'm really excited to be listening to the rest of the tour.
I love that. Yeah, and that's definitely a good vibe to have, is even when you're jumping off, to know that like the band they're playing in a manner that everybody's going to benefit and you're still going to be listening, but you have like good context for where the band was at the time. Before we dive into the music that happened last night, we do have to discuss, as you mentioned, Derek, they played this really high quality show in Bethel on the second night. I really loved the first night as well, but I thought Saturday night was on just a very, very high level. We need to talk about the vibe of the overall show and what it's like walking into a very different venue than Bethel Woods in a lot of cases. And this segment of the show is sponsored by Section 119, which Megan, you need to tell us about because you are rocking some Section 119 threads right now.
I am. Yes. I'm so excited to hear about the vibe of the show because I feel like Hartford is so different than Bethel. It's just like two different worlds. So I'm really excited to hear about this. I saw so many pictures of Bethel, so I'm really excited to hear about the vibe last night. But Section 119 is awesome. They're the premier apparel brand where many fans shop to represent their favorite brand in everyday life. So they've got really great designs, really nice quality. They offer lots of stuff like all kinds of great button downs. I'm wearing like a little Grateful Dead button down today with dancing bears. They have tons of donut inspired gear too. The thing about Section 119 is they really stand out from other, I think a lot of like lot shirts, and because the quality is so high. This is a men's shirt, but it provides two great things for me to do today. One is that I can look like one of my favorite people, Brian Brinkman, and wear a button down. And I can also have like a great cover up to throw on that doesn't look like anyone else's. So I love Section 119. Women should check them out too. They just launched like a whole line of women's donut inspired activewear, which I am going to be rocking on the lot this year. So look out for that. And you can use code SUMMER22 and you're going to get a 20% discount on your next purchase. And you're going to absolutely love them. So score 20% off your next order with code SUMMER2022. I'm sorry, just SUMMER22.
Summer 22. You can see it on the screen here if you're watching. I'm seeing here, speaking of vibe, there is already a debate in the comments about whether or not Great Woods or the Meadows, Great Woods or Hartford's Meadows traffic is worse. So, Marco, as you are a Massachusetts, you came from Massachusetts originally, you need to settle this debate. What is worse, the traffic at Great Woods or the traffic at Hartford?
Great Woods, and it's a pretty far margin apart. After the shows at Mansfield, we set up the grill again and hung out in the parking lot for about 90 minutes. And then it took us 45
genius.
And it still took us 45 minutes to leave the lot.
Wow. Still well played though. Well played.
Yeah.
It's a very good move outside. So Marco, sticking with you, what was kind of the vibe for the show for you at this point in time, walking in? You're winding down your tour. You've seen a bunch. What was it like coming into Hartford on a Sunday?
It was really jovial. I think that Bethel was incredibly relaxed. People were excited to be out in the woods. The view was beautiful. Bethel was really calm and really just people there to have a good time. I think that from my impression walking into Hartford, people were really excited. It was more of a party atmosphere. Even looking across the lawn, which is where I was throughout the show, more people with blinking lights, more people with glow sticks, and it seemed more like a party than it had the nights previous.
We got that remark the first night that we talked about Bethel, that like Philly felt like a party. And then showing up in Bethel, which strangely, it's not a midweek vibe. It's a Friday night show. It felt a lot very pastoral. There were families there. It was like a very kind of laid back, chill experience. Derek, did you have a similar experience going from Bethel to Hartford, where it kind of changed the dynamic?
Well, I the only time I've been to Bethel was in I think 2009 for Dave Matthews Band. So I haven't been there in quite a long time, but I remember it being like really cool and feeling like really nestled into the woods, as opposed to, Hartford, where it's like, you're literally just in the city and all of a sudden there's an amphitheater right there. But I will agree with Marco in that I think the traffic is so much worse at Mansfield. It is hell getting out of there. I've been to so many. I mean, before they started doing shows in Bangor and like having that amphitheater there, like Mansfield was technically like my home venue, and it took me 5 hours to drive from my hometown to get there. But I had a really cool, like Sunday, never miss a Sunday show type of vibe. I thought it was a lot of fun. We didn't hang much in the lot. We did in Bangor and both nights Mansfield, but we kind of had a late start from Portland yesterday, and I wanted to hit Treehouse Brewing in Charlton, Mass on the way, because that place is so far out of the way for what we normally do. So we're like, it's just a little out of the way to go to Hartford. So we stocked up on cans there and got to Hartford, and we sat out our car and like had a drink and then took one into just to walk the lot a little bit before we went in. But it seemed like people were really excited, and as soon as we got in, and I was on the lawn also, everybody in our section was really excited. We met up with a couple friends there, and had a spot directly in the center, like just a few rows of people back from the walkway. So it was like the perfect location.
I've only been to Hartford once. I sat on the lawn both times. It's a big venue, but I remember really liking the lawn. It kind of slopes nicely. The sound is pretty good up there. You didn't feel like you were removed from the show the way that you do at like SPAC or something like that, where like you feel like there's a show happening and then you're out here. It actually like feels like you're a part of it. Really nice way.
And I'll add to that in saying that I think Hartford is great because the roof of the pavilion is super, super high. Yep. So if you could be in the back of the lawn and you can see the top of the light rig, where Mansfield has a shorter roof. Even the Man, although I give the Man a huge pass because it was designed acoustically for its intended purpose. I was at the front of the lawn at the Man, and I could see maybe the bottom of the lights when he brought them down quite low. But the Hartford roof is so tall, you can really see the whole performance, even the whole light rig.
I love that. Yeah, it's really, really nice about that. RJ, turning to you really quick before we jump into the music. You and I have been like ships passing the night covering this tour. I want to get your thoughts on, we're 2 weeks in. What do you think of the overall, like, what is your overall impression of where the band is at this point in time, and what has stood out to you?
Yeah, well, thanks. Also, I just want to say I was at a friend's house in Connecticut on Saturday, and I was wearing the same shirt Megan's wearing, and from Section 119, and it's such a great thing for a pool or beach because you can, like, I don't know. I mostly wear t-shirts. You know, I'm not a Brian Brinkman dresser, but for
not
like
everyone can be. You know, I mean,
yeah, everyone
we all
can't
look as sharp as Brian.
Going to the pool or the beach.
It's not me.
It's so great. Also, at that party, I was also drinking Treehouse beers from a friend who brought them up from Massachusetts, and so I just want to tell you guys both those things. I think we talked on a recap of the spring tour. I was a little underwhelmed with the spring tour. I found it to be like a little bit. I just couldn't really like wrap my head around it. The last show, you know, was amazing, and there were great moments, but it was I was sort of underwhelmed and not sure where the sound was going. I think the sound didn't change that much between Mexico and spring. Not that it has to change, but it felt like there wasn't a lot of evolution. But I mean, Bethel won one of the most unique first sets I've ever listened to. I mean, if I hadn't known better, I'd be like, those guys ate like a bunch of mushrooms before the show. You know, like they just like taking Golgi, taking sample into these completely new places outside of the song structure in 4 minutes each, you know, just like, it's just wild. I mean, to me, that's like really indicative of how much this has changed. So I think it's amazing. I was at the Man shows, and, you know, even when they played, I Didn't Know, and Trey was on the drums and he kept hitting Fishman's like samples and like cracking up, you know, they're having so much fun. The other night, they were trying to get through Undermine, and Trey like couldn't stop laughing. You know, they're having a good time, and it's just amazing how quickly they're getting to these jam spaces. Even that last night too. You know, like Breath and Burning and Final Hurrah, like both of those, like they're not just getting through the song, they're exploring quickly, and I just think it's great. I also think like there's more spacey, dark jams, you know, which I'm sure we'll talk more about. To me, like the kind of Major Key Bliss jam is like a safe place to take these jams, and when they're not going in those places, you know that they're pushing. So that's Trey. I think, you know, obviously Fishman has been insane, but I think when they keep pushing in those kind of different sound spaces, I don't know, that to me means that there's confidence, there's like no hesitation at all. They're just pushing quickly into wherever Trey wants to take the sound, with Fishman like never stopping playing no matter what. I mean, it's insane. So I don't know. I think this has been amazing. Relentless is what I said earlier today. It just doesn't. None of these shows have like stopped. You know. I mean, at the Man, I think there were 2 ballads over 2 nights, basically. You know. I mean.
No, the energy's been incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're not getting a lot of like ballad and then they jam again and then another ballad. Like there's one break in pretty much all of these sets, and then everything else, even when they're not experimenting, and like we'll get into it, the latter part of the second set last night, Number Line, Character Zero, those are just high energy, but it's a lot of energy for the band to play after spending so much time and effort in the early part of the set really jamming. Well, let's get into it. Set 1 last night. We got Cars, Trucks, Buses, Breath and Burning, Final Hurrah, Free, Yarmouth Road, Plasma, Into Sigma Oasis, Limb by Limb, and Sand. Derek, starting with you, what was your big highlight of set one, and what were your overall impressions of the set as a whole?
I mean, I think there's nothing that you can say other than Sigma Oasis. Like that was a spectacular, like, you know, capital F, capital S, capital J, first set jam, you know. But like you were, like RJ was saying earlier about, you know, taking these songs and maybe, you know, in touching on the micro jams thing, like even stuff like Breath and Burning and Yarmouth Road and stuff had a little bit extra to it. And those aren't typically songs that I'm, you know, like jumping up and down here, you know, hearing when they start playing them. And like there was a ton of energy too, you know. There were some issues that are not issues and not even complaints really, because the second set really made up for it, I guess. But you know, like some of the set list calls, like I love Sand. It's one of my favorite Fish songs, but I've seen it so many times as the high energy set closer that when they get into it, I'm almost disappointed, because especially after the Deer Creek one, spring tour, like I want the nice big, like second set opener, 20-minute Sand, like let's go. But you know, like last night it was 9 minutes, but Trey shredded the hell out of it. Like, and you know, when it has that much energy, like, you know, you can't go wrong with a set closer like that. And you know, Yarmouth Road, like I said, even that had extra to it. And I'll be real, I was kind of bummed about that call, because my wife and I love Mull. Like since they debuted it last year, we love that song. That's our favorite, you know, Mike song since the beginning of 3.0 probably. And they've done some really cool stuff with that. And there's one, I think it was at Deer Creek on the spring tour, that really seemed like it was they just good. Ran out of gas. Yeah, they just ran out of ideas, and they didn't try to force anything. So we were like, oh, you know, summer tour is prime. And the fact that they haven't played it yet is kind of wild to me. But you know, everything seemed to have a little extra. And then that Sigma was just, Fishman is a machine. That was so good.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting. Just a quick point about Yarmouth Road, because I agree with you in full on Mull. Like that song sounds primed to really go places that a lot of Mike songs just haven't gone in the 3.0 era. But this was the second biggest gap between the last Yarmouth Road. It was played at Dick's 2021 last year. And it's kind of a version that's been overlooked. It had similar vibes to last night, where it just felt like they were figuring out what are the edges of this song. Can we take this a little bit further? And it would be very cool to hear and shine a spotlight on Mike from a songwriting and from a jamming standpoint, if both that and Mull were taken for kind of a second set ride. I feel like there's a lot to explore there. Marco, turning to you, I was going to joke before we jumped into this segment that can anyone raise their hand if their highlight was anything other than Sigma Oasis? So I'm guessing we're all going there number one. So if you have a different one, by all means, but we can all still gush about Sigma Oasis, because that was unbelievable. But what was kind of your big takeaway from the set?
I think my highlight would have to be Sigma Oasis, so I'll just get that out of the way.
There it is.
I was with a friend all weekend in our group who was confident, calling it all day for hours and hours and hours, that Cars, Trucks, and Buses was going to open night 2 at Bethel. And he was shouting it from the rooftops. So as soon as they opened, and he was not there last night, he missed the Hartford show. So as soon as that opened, texts were flying and everybody was razzing him for it. So that was a highlight for me as well.
Love that.
I mean, just one day off, it's not bad. He still had the vibe, right? Yeah, but he missed it. Yeah, it's true.
I do want to say, I think that the Breath and Burning, Yarmouth Road, maybe not the most exciting. They did start pushing them. Maybe not the most exciting, but I think there's something to be said for these songs that aren't played too often and getting enjoyment out of that. If they played Yarmouth Road every other show or maybe once a run, I'd probably get pretty sick of it and would complain about it. But these songs that aren't played that often that are still part of the Fish repertoire. I don't think it detracts from a set when you get to see them live. And I haven't seen Breath and Burning since pre-COVID. I think they've only played it once, or maybe not. No, I don't think they've played Breath and Burning since before COVID, and I think they've only played Yarmouth Road once or twice. So I think there's something to be said for that. I think that there's value in them mixing up the set lists and reaching back into the bag for something that might be less exciting, but something they haven't done yet in a while.
I agree with that. I'm looking at it. It's the first since Mexico 2020, 59 show gap. I was kind of wondering when it was going to reappear. And I was thinking about the point you're making. Like, there's a lot of chatter around the quality of the set list, but it is interesting if you go through. I took notes on this morning. Final Hurrah only been played 15 times. Breath and Burning only 17 times. Yarmouth Road 32 times. Plasma 28. Sigma 18. And then if you get into the second set, Wave of Hope, it's only been played 7 times. And even a song like A Song I Heard the Ocean Sing, written 18 years ago, has only 43 total performances. You got a lot of songs that are like, I think that this is the fault of, in a good way, the amount of songs that have entered the Fish canon in the last 10 years that put us in a position where, like, a lot of new songs that in the 1990s would get played every 2 or 3 shows as the band is trying to figure out how does this fit into our rotation. A song like Breath and Burning can either be a standard 4-minute song or can be like Last Night, where it gets stretched to 8, 9, 10 minutes. I think there's been a 14-minute version before as well. Like, it's had hints of exploration, but you only hear it so often because the band is just constantly saying, hey, here's 5 new songs we've got to play this tour. Hey, here's a whole new album that we just decided to write that we're not going to record and release because we're just constantly writing music. It's kind of a crazy experience right now. Megan and RJ, what were your guys' highlights and takeaway from set 1?
Yeah, this is the kind of show that I'm okay that they play 2 nights before I'm going to see them for the first time. And that's just because I'm a selfish fan. And this was a great show.
You're not the only one.
Yeah, this whole run has just been banger after banger. Like, I feel like this run has been incredible. Like, every night they come off the stage and I'm like, what could they possibly do better the next night? And then they change it up, whether it's like jamming songs they haven't jammed before, playing an epic big jam, doing some, tweezer fest. Like, they're constantly been reinventing new things. And at some point they had to take a breath. And I feel like last night was the breath. And I feel like everything you guys are saying about them choosing new songs to bring in is awesome. And I think that's why they continue to surprise us. But I think that sometimes that affects the flow of the set. And I felt like set 1 especially had a little bit of inconsistency in flow. I thought the back half of the set was much better, like Sigma, Limb by Limb, Sand. I felt like that was when they started to get a flow and play really well. And I mean, obviously the Sigma was melodic space funk, which is like, always want that. Yes, please. It's a great peak. Nice Limb by Limb. I think the Sand groove, like you were saying, Derek, it's one of my favorite songs too, because they can always find just like such a sick groove in it. And they did, even though it wasn't that long. But yeah, I thought this back half of the set was much stronger.
RJ, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, like the taking the Breath and Burning, I sort of said this earlier, but the Breath and Burning being close to 10 minutes, and it's just like they got outside of that particular song. I guess there's this thing that, people talk about, like the jam. This applies more to the second set, but look at the set list and you're like, I don't know, those songs look boring. I mean, if you're there for the jams, there are jams in these songs. And if you're there for the songs, then I guess you like the song. So I guess I'm just confused why anyone would be unhappy, Like, I have a friend who, a 23-minute Wave of Hope is like, I don't like that song. It's not about the song. It has nothing to do with the song. The song is like 3 minutes and then there's 20 minutes of jamming. So like, whatever, they can jam any song. The song is just like a vehicle for it. And I mean, I don't know. I just don't, I don't understand it still. I know we've talked about this a lot.
It's interesting because, like, the only classic Fish song of this tour to produce like what I would think is like one of the best jams of the year is the Down with Disease from Banger. Aside from that, it's Set Your Soul Free from Bethel, which a lot of people take issue with that song. It's A Wave of Hope from Last Night in Hartford. recent examples of Everything's Right. Like, a lot of people take issue with the lyrics to that song. A lot of people take issue with Soul Planet. These are all songs that, like, the band is really, to your point, RJ, number one, Ruby Waves could be thrown in this category as well. There's songs that take 3 minutes and then the band is gone. Like, there's zero hint of these songs until maybe a point where Trey says, okay, let's bring it back to the chorus 24, 25 minutes later. But like, overall, they're the songs that seem to be inspiring where the band is going. And also, you don't have to wade through 6, 7, 10 minutes of song before you get to the jamming. It's, here's a sample, here's where we're inspired, here's where we're feeling right now, and let's keep going. Derek, I see you nodding. Do you have thoughts on that? And like, what's your take on that?
Oh yeah, I have many thoughts on that. But
for
me,
man.
It's like, of course I live in Portland, so especially when they're on the West Coast, I'll go to bed at a normal time and wake up, and the first thing I do the next morning is check Live Fish. And had I not gone to last night, but woke up in the morning and checked the track times on Live Fish and saw, an 18-minute Sigma in the first set, second set opening with a 23-minute Wave of Hope, followed by a 19-minute Song I Heard the Ocean Sing, followed by a 13-minute Blaze On, I would be like, okay, let's go. This is going to be my day, is just listening to this, a couple of times probably. And to me, the fact that they can introduce all these new songs and then just throw them into the slots that, like you said, Down with Disease and now Chalk Dust and stuff like that occupy, where it's like this song can be the prime second set opener and we're gonna jam the hell out of it. And seeing like Sigma develop too, it was like I was at the Dick's one last year, the first time they jammed it, and I was like, finally, okay, this is awesome. And now seeing that like develop into an actual jam vehicle is so cool. And then like all of a sudden, Wave of Hope, they played that really good one on the spring tour, and it was like, okay, this song could be something. And then they played it in Mansfield and it was kind of standard, so I was like, okay, wonder if that was like a one-time thing or maybe not like too often. And then for them to open the second set last night, like right from the get-go, I was like, okay, they're probably going to take this out there. And well, they definitely took it out there. But for me, it doesn't matter what the song is, because like you said, especially with a lot of those, sorry if you can hear my cat hollering at me. She's really needy and is very excited that we're home now. But all these newer songs like the Soul songs and Ruby Waves and Wave of Hope, it's like a couple minutes. And I mean, I, for the most part, like those songs anyways, like as a song, especially Ruby Waves. I think that's a great song. But for them to like, it's like, we can play this, it just takes a couple verses and then we're going to be off. And then it can, like you said, they could go back into the end of it eventually, or they could just, go to space and never come back and leave the song unfinished. And it's really cool that it's just like those, intro, verse, chorus, jam, whatever type of songs, rather than something where it's like, oh, we have this jam built into the middle of the song, so we're going to have to work our way to it or something like that.
Agree completely with all of that. And I think, my biggest takeaway from set one last night was kind of what we're all saying. It almost doesn't matter what they're playing right now. I don't really think about the song selection, because you hear one moment, and the Sigma Oasis was a perfect example. It's a great version of the song proper, and then you just heard Paige like lean into his synthesizers, and Trey heard it immediately, went to a completely different key, started muting his strings, Fishman started changing, and on a dime, they were in a totally different musical space for the next 15 minutes. And that can really happen in any song. We saw it at Bethel with Golgi. We saw it at Bethel with Undermined. To have it happen with Sigma, and we'll get to it here in the second set. It's really special stuff that's happening right now, and almost doesn't matter what song they start with. The only other point I just want to make about this first set is the final hurrah has really just, like, in only 15 performances, and I was thinking about it during the performance last night, this is the type of song that 25 years ago would have taken the band having be in their consistent rotation to just get playing a type 1 version as tight and as fascinating as it is. and they've played it across 4 years, 15 times. And there's a moment in that solo where they're just kind of building it up, and it just sounds like a song that's been in the catalog for years. And I loved that part of the set, outside of the Sigma Oasis, which I would have voted for as well. But before we dive into our second set conversation, which there's a lot to dive into in the second set, we do need to take that brief pause, put our guitars on the rack, wave to the crowd, spot out a couple people that we know from college. Hey, you came back. Thanks so much. Thanks for hanging. We need to tell you all about our good friends at Sunset Lake CBD, who allow us the ability to take a breather, take a load off, kick back over set break, maybe put your child down who's going through an 18-month sleep regression. Whatever you do during set break, whatever your routine is. Sunset Lake's line of smokable hemp products are for the old deadhead or the young fish fan, or reverse. You could be a young deadhead, all the same. Anyone who is searching for a mellow body high. Smoking CBD has all the benefits of high THC cannabis without the paranoia and the anxious side effects. With 9 different strains from this year's harvest, there's something for everyone. The Hawaiian Haze is awesome for an outdoor show, and Cherry Abacus is best for the end of the night. All the flowers grown, cured, and trimmed by Sunset Lake CBD farmers. Even better, Sunset Lake CBD's farm-to-table approach gets you great pricing on premium CBD flower by shipping it directly from their farm to your door. I enjoyed some Hawaiian Haze last night. It was very, very nice. It kept my mellow as I went into the second set here. And I would encourage you all to check them out at sunsetlakecbd.com and use the coupon code HFPod for 20% off all products. So Derek, starting with you, what is your typical set break routine, and what did you do last night during set break?
Well, it kind of depends. Like sometimes, like last night was one of those ones where it's like, they play this great jam deep in the second set, and you just need a few minutes to just sort of like come down. It was the same thing with the Dick's Carini last year, where it was like that was the set closer, and it's like you kind of have to like, okay, the adrenaline's running, and you just kind of have to take a minute to just couple of deep breaths. So it was just going to restock on drinks and like just take a little seat in our nice little spot on the lawn and just be like, wow, that was a really great Sigma Oasis, huh? So our little crew, that's what we discussed. And I actually, one of my friends happened to see where we were, and he ran and stopped by and said hi, just because he saw us from the walkway. So that was pretty cool. So it was just kind of like a stop and gather your thoughts type of set break.
I love that. Marco, how about you? What is your typical routine, and what did you do last night?
My typical routine is to usually go find a bathroom if needed. I think somebody said this on one of the Bethel podcasts. I'm a strict everything possible, no bathroom breaks during the show. There are no peace songs to me, because I'm at a concert that I paid money to go see. So I'll do that. And last night was extra celebratory. It was with the 50th show, so I had friends coming down or people who knew that there's somebody who is really close to me on the lawn by chance, and I feel like this happens at every show. I live in Hoboken, New Jersey now, so I get to as many of the MSG shows as I can, and I feel every time at MSG I run into this friend of mine. I ended up in the same row as him at an MSG show in 2020 by chance, and 2019, excuse me. And yesterday he was about 15 feet behind me on the lawn, so I got to connect with him. And connecting with friends seems to be what I like to do the most, because there's no music being played, and I get to explore the venue and talk to some people.
I love that. Yeah, the reunions at Set Break, and I try to maintain throughout the entire show. I did admit to I will run to the bitch when it happens, but I'm right there with you in terms of like, I paid money for this. I want to stay in my seat. That's how I view conversation. If I have like a friend in the middle of a set trying to have a conversation, I'm like, hey, we're here at this concert. Let's talk at Set Break. So it sounds like you had that reunion then.
You wouldn't do it. You wouldn't have that conversation during a movie. This is
it. Thank you. I appreciate this. I always see people walking on. I'm like, where are you going? There's a concert happening right now. What's going on right now? So once again, everyone, go check out sunsetlakecbd.com. Use coupon code HFPod for 20% off all of their products. Megan, I know that you are short on time with us for the recap, so I do want to give you a chance as we jump into set 2 here. Tell us, kick us off. What was your highlight? What are your impressions of this second set?
I thought the first half of the second set was awesome. Obviously, this Wave of Hope, super melodic jam. I love how they've been going out into these like dark spaces, but then finding melody there. I feel like that's just been kind of the vibe of this summer and something I've been so impressed with. And it's cool because I'm always someone who likes like funkier or blissier jams, but it's been really cool to kind of hear where they're going with this darker tone and find melody there still. Super cool. I also thought the song I heard the ocean sing was beautiful. I thought it ended in like a really cool like blues riff, which I really liked. And I thought the Blaze On was great too. The rest of the set was, just well played fish. Like, how can you complain about that? But I thought the first half of the set felt more inspired.
Would you like me to explain how you can complain about that, or are you just asking rhetorically? Derek, tell us what was kind of your impression of the second set last night?
Well, I thought as a whole the jamming was really inspired last night, and you had 4 different songs that were like really taken out in Sigma and in the first 3 songs of the second set, and they all like went to different places, and that's the type of stuff that I really like, where it's not quite as like thematic over the course of like segueing songs or whatever, but Wave of Hope I thought was really awesome. When they got into the like bed of sound, like groove part, and just Trey, on top of it, just doing a lot of experimenting, not so much like chording or soloing or anything like that. It's kind of like all of those like 99 and 2000 jams that I love, where it's like, just a groove machine. I really dug that, and the re-entry into the end of the song was really smooth compared to sometimes it's not quite as smooth. But I thought I was gonna jump 15 feet in the air at that entry into Song I Heard the Ocean Sing. Like, not even a like I've always loved that song. I think that's the last night was only the second time I've seen it, and I just thought the placement of that was outstanding. Like, they ring out that last quarter Wave of Hope, and Fishman kicks into the drums, and I was like, yes. And for that jam too, like, it really seemed like it was going to fizzle out like 10 and a half minutes in, and Fishman had this beat that he was playing like for a few minutes straight, like the same beat in it. Everybody kind of started to fade away a little bit, and I think Paige came in with like a synth riff or something like that, and then Trey must have found some inspiration on that, because he hopped right back onto it, and then they built it back up to that like sort of blissy peak, and that was cool. And then Blaze On, I do have to say that my wife going into last night's show was like, I don't want to hear Everything's Right, and I don't want to hear Blaze On, because we seem to get them every single run. And shout out to David Steinberg. I checked my Zizix stats, and Blaze On is indeed, like, that and Fuego are our most overplayed songs. So yeah, we see them quite a lot. And Blaze On, I did get her to admit this morning, okay, last night's Blaze On was really good. The last like 2 minutes of that, when it got really sort of soundscapey again, and then Mike came in with like some throbbing bass there at the end, and I was really hoping they were going to take off on that, and it just sort of dissolved. So that was kind of a bummer, but it was still cool that they were able to, in a relatively short period of time, get from like the typical laid back Blaze On start of the jam to like that space. So, just in those 3 songs alone to start the set, they went to a whole lot of different places, and it was really cool to be there and see. And like Megan said, the second half was just, some nice, well played fish, some shredding on Backwards Down the Number Line and Character Zero, of course, you know, a little bit of strutting around the stage, you know, you always love to see that. And I mean, Trey, you can tell how much he loves playing Backwards Down the Number Line. I think, what is it you say, RJ? It's like, sorry, your favorite band's guitarist is playing his favorite song or something like that. So I always think, yeah, I always think of that in the back of my head anytime I see Backwards Down the Number Line, because that's another song we catch quite a bit. So, you know, and I've seen them play a few good versions of that. And I thought last night, you know, was pretty high energy in the ending. But, you know, after a second set that begins like that, plus a big jam in the first set, it's like, I don't care what the rest of the show really is. And for it to be some high energy, you know, set closing stuff, great. And then a great encore, awesome. You know, like I was over the moon with the second set and encore last night. So
thank you for all that. That's there's so much good context and so many good thoughts in there. Two things I wanted to kind of pluck out. One is, it seemed like the first two shows of tour, Great Woods, and then I would say as well the first night of the Man with the Tweezer Fest, it seemed like they were leaning into like that thematic flow of a set where there weren't really long jams. There were a lot of like, here's, I guess you could call it a micro jam. We're going to jam for like 5-6 minutes. Once we hop on a theme that takes us into another song, we'll play that. That will lead to a jam, which will lead to another song. And it was really cool. But then it feels as well, there's this like other dynamic at play. It started, it seems like, with the banger Down with Disease, but it continued this past weekend and the second night of Bethel, and then last night, where they're really pushing jams out. And it seems like they really can do no wrong. Like, you're either going to get a set of like 6 or 7 kind of jammed out songs that still lead to a lot of lingering creativity and a set that feels very complete from a flow standpoint, or you're going to get a set like last night where you're going to have segments of deep improv and then kind of like, okay, just, you know, classic Fish. I'm curious, Marco, like, do you hear that? And do you have a preference either way, since you've seen a bunch of shows this summer?
I want to start by saying I absolutely hear that. It's something I've been thinking about a lot. To one of your first points about them just kind of taking the set list in a way that they just find it. From Mansfield, they just kind of happened upon the Weekapog groove riff from the way I hear it. And then Weekapog was almost getting dark, and it was getting so dark that they kind of just happened upon Saw It Again. And then they weren't Saw It Again. And it feels like they're willing to jump on the idea really quickly. And I think that exact same mindset is doing just as much work on the deep jamming. I think I hear this year far more than I have in a long time, than taking a single musical idea, like a single musical motif, and then just sitting on that for a while. Derek, you brought it up where it's kind of representative of old or late 90s jamming, where it's really groove based and you just sit in the groove.
Totally.
But sometimes I feel like a lot of the time in recent years, you'd have this jam that's going really well and starts to modulate, and then Trey ends up on this little lick, and he sits on it until the rest of the band jumps in on the same lick, and then he takes it off and jams and just solos. And then that would happen, and then find the next lick, the rest of the band jumps in, and then Trey jumps out. And this year, I'm really hearing Trey finding that lick. The rest of the band jumps in, and then Trey keeps playing that lick, and they keep it going for another 5 minutes with some variation. And I heard it so distinctly last night during a song I heard the Ocean sing, a song I adore. I don't think I've heard that since the New Year's run in 2017.
Wow.
With the big boat. I thought, oh man, I think that song is so interesting. Even
Totally.
just the song portion. And then I was certain that I heard them playing Genesis at the end of that. I was certain I heard That's All by Genesis.
You're not the only person. I got that text from 3 or 4 other people during that jam. And
I was singing it to my friends, and they heard it too, and I was positive. And I at least .net doesn't think so, but like they hit that riff, that riff for That's All, and they they just turned that into something for a long time without too much deviation. And I really, really like this style of jamming. I've said for years, when people ask, what do you want to see tonight? I'll say patient fish. I don't care what the song. I want to see them be patient with this. And in the big jams, I've heard them with a lot of patience. And then sometimes that patience turns into them just wandering into a song by accident. And I like that too.
Yeah.
But I think last night was the jams were patient jams, and I was really, really here for it.
What you're talking about, the riff that Trey seems to be finding, or riffs that he seems to be finding, that then leads to further jamming. I felt like the Haley's Comet from night one at the Man was a perfect example. Like he wasn't like playing chords. He was just, how do I figure out a riff, and then Paige can kind of take off of this, and Mike can take off this. We can go. RJ, returning to something that you and I have been talking a lot about, I feel like one thing that was missing in the early 2022 shows, basically Mexico through the end of the spring tour, was an introduction of a new way for the band to jam. There were a lot of jams that felt like they were going to, a percussive place. Trey would flip on the synthesizer pedal, Paige would move over to the synths, and then somehow they'd move into like a blissful type jamming. It seems to me like one of the things that's changing are these riffs that Trey's inserting, that's adding a lot of color to the jamming. Do you hear that as well? Did you hear that in last night's show, or are you hearing anything different?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is the most I've ever talked about Breath and Burning, but I think the jam last night had this like 4 minutes into it, Trey has this little like run that he's done a couple times at the Man, and last night it's like a reverb delay, but he's playing it quickly over and over, and that just like, because it keeps the pace with Fishman's tempo, and it's like, as opposed to like the shredding Trey keeping up with Fishman's tempo, it's like the effects are pushing it more quickly. And I heard that in Sigma Oasis too. Like there's 7 minutes into it. I mean, Fishman is just so amazing right now and always, but they just like 7 minutes into it, they start pushing the tempo like really hard. And I feel like the effects, like Trey's using the effects to change tempos as opposed to kind of like slow things down or push them into like a spacier, slower place. That's what it sounds like to me. Also, these things are happening to me. I mean, maybe I'm just getting older in the past few months, but everything's happening so fast, like the Down with Disease from Bangor, that I've listened to it a bunch of times, and it goes by really fast. There's like so much going on. I can't even really like process it as it's happening. I feel like some of these gems from last night, like that, the Blaze On was only 13 minutes, like you guys were saying, but it gets into like, I don't know, they're just generating ideas pretty quickly. And I think there's like a lot of patience, but also no hesitation, which it seems like that's like the combo that I see that's really, really making it work.
That like duel of patience and no hesitation seems to, regardless the style, really like lead to a high quality tour. I think like, for me, tours that I don't typically revisit are like summer 2014 or summer 2016 in terms of the last couple of basically since the 2009 return. And part of the reason I don't really return to them is there doesn't seem to be a ton of patience. There's a lot of like rush, like, okay, we got to get to either the next song because there's like dead space, or someone throws out an idea and it doesn't really connect with the other band members. It feels like since they came back in Arkansas last year, they're just slowly evolving where let's throw a new thing in, and technologically it's working and musically it's working. And to me, I don't know if it peaked last night, but like everything that they've been building towards throughout this tour felt like it reached a new level in that first hour of the second set. Like I went back and listened to Wave of Hope, Song I Heard the Ocean Sing, and Blaze On this morning, and I felt like I was listening pretty closely last night, and I was hearing totally new things. And it feels like I had the same experience going back to the Tweezer from the final night in Alabama, 529, one of my favorite jams from that run. I feel like in the best jams of this year, you hear something in one moment and then you revisit it. And like you're saying about the Down with Disease, you hear all new ideas, and it's just like, it gives you the reason to like keep revisiting these jams in the way that I would a fall 97 jam or a December 95 jam, where it just like, the more you put in, the more it gives back to you.
I think you brought up a lot of really good points. I think the patience is something that allows them to expand on ideas quite a bit. Without that patience, you wouldn't have had anything like those first two jams of last night. And on the topic of patience, I think I read a really interesting comment somewhere on the internet over the last few days, which is they said, I'm really happy to see that the wingsuit jamming is expanding to other songs. And to that, I interpret to being where it's super quiet, really ambient. The rest of the band isn't doing anything too aggressive, but Trey is playing aggressively over that backing. And a lot of the time, the band will bring it into the spacey area, and then that spacey area becomes ambient space. And then Trey just tears into it at the appropriate time, but it gives this new level to the dark jamming, which is, I think, most people's favorite, or a lot of people's favorite. But that dark jamming has this tendency to get kind of hyper aggro. In a way, I'm thinking of Deer Creek last year during the Simple. And it's just relentless and over and over and over again. But when you can get into this dark minor key space that's really quiet, and then Trey just completely tears a hole into it, and they sit in that period for a while without moving into a different, without maybe the rest of the band matching his energy, it can be, it's just a different, it's different. It's really interesting, and it allows for more jams like we see in this tour.
I feel like a lot of what you're talking about that was in the Blaze On last night, and I think that's going to probably be overshadowed of this entire night. But that was just a fascinating jam that took a ton of patience and it was very quiet at times.
I think these shows keep getting better. I mean, I think it's like, I think there are different, flavors of these shows, but the tour is getting better day by day, I think. And that, I saw both man shows, and I'll see more this weekend, but I don't know. It just feels like it's getting better. You can say, I'm sure we could say that one of the early shows is better than last night, but the cohesiveness of the playing seems to be getting better and better.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. And I think I can't remember if you all touched on it during the Man or Bethel Woods shows, but the video that Mike posted the other day about how he was talking about at soundcheck, they were messing around with using different hand signals to signify different chord changes or root notes or whatever. I'm not really a musician, so I can't really go into the music theory stuff, but it makes sense. If you were just jamming and you move to a certain chord that you would think it would be a specific, would have a specific note structure to it, and by doing the hand signals, you would modulate that a little bit, and it would allow them to smoothly go to different places that they might not normally without using that. And Mike just talking about in soundcheck them messing with that, because it's something that Trey uses with tabs. So it'll be interesting to see if that makes its way really to the stage, more than just the Trey, keep going. So it'll be cool to see as the tour progresses, if that's something that they start bringing in, and it'd be really cool to see.
I did not see Mike's video on that. But last night I saw at one point, it was at the top of A Wave of Hope, and you could see Trey doing that. He's holding a specific chord, and he looks at the band member and indicates this chord. And I noticed it, and I turned to my friend and I said, A Wave of Hope is jamming hard tonight. And
that's awesome.
But I was awesome. they're doing something with this, and it's interesting because I hadn't seen Mike's video, Derek, but that's kind of fun affirmation on both sides that they're putting this into practice.
Yeah. It's whatever the communication is, it just continues and it grows, and they're figuring out new ways to talk to each other on stage. Trey's not going to yell at Mike anymore to stay on F. They're going to have hand signals that just indicate this is where we go. And there's that great GIF from last year, the Chalk Dust Torture in Atlanta, where Trey points to Mike and just does that, and okay, we're off. And that always seems to signify to me what the spirit of this era is since they came back from the pandemic. I want to ask you guys all, I kind of know where you're going with this, but I think it's important to touch on. We talked about a bit in the first set about the song selection. Obviously, they closed down Blaze On. We're about 60 minutes or so into the show, or into the second set at this point in time. And they close out with Wedge, Farmhouse, Numberline, Character Zero. My takeaway was you got everything you could have ever asked for from those first three songs in the second set. It's one of those sets where, like, I don't care what they play now, just play music, fulfill the set. None of this is going to like disappoint me. It's just, it is, you guys just want to keep playing music, and you're not in the headspace anymore to dive in and be like creative on the spot the way that you were. I thought that they were really good versions of the Wedge, Farmhouse, Numberline, and Zero. Do you guys did you find that it took away in the moment from your enjoyment of the show, that like they're kind of just, playing some rock songs to close it out? Or did you find that like everything had been good up to that point, that you were cool with just kind of a standard closing to the show? Derek, I'll throw to you first.
I mean, I was cool with it because that's pretty much the norm, is even in those sets with the big jams. Not everything is like that fourth quarter twist the other night. That was really, really good and really surprising improv. I'm also thinking of Plasma in Chicago 2018. That was another late second set, like out of nowhere, like 15 minute, really, really good exploratory jam, where it's like, it still has the power to it to be like in the end of the second set, but it's able to like get there too. So I mean, it was nothing that I'm going to complain about. Like, maybe I would have rather heard like Shade or Frost in the Farmhouse slot, or Dirt or something, but because I've seen my fair share of Farmhouses. But that song has, and I think we talked about it last year, Brian, but that song kind of has a new life like the last few years, especially.
Totally
it's
agree.
Really like delicate now, in the way that they completely bring the volume down to almost nothing, and you just hear that really delicate Trey playing, which we don't get a whole lot of these days. But when those moments happen, it's just like where you get to just like soak in a really nice, beautiful guitar solo, rather than just like the shredding or like a deep jam or something like that. And those are some cool moments. And then of course he just laid waste to Backwards Sound Numberline and Character Zero, just kind of like usual. Those songs always have really good high energy endings for the most part, and if the band is firing on all cylinders at that point, then those are always good ways to cap off a set, if that is the direction they're going, rather than the end of show improv. But I think maybe the heat might have had something to do with it too, because that they played so long without stopping there, that it's like, okay, let's play some things that we know how to play really well, that we can just kind of sit in here. And because I mean, it was hot as hell. So
it's always a good reminder as well that they are a rock band, and these are rock and roll songs. And sometimes, like, if you're a rock band and you can play guitar the way that Trey does, it's really fun to just play. Like, Backwards on the Numberline is not a complicated song. It's also a very sentimental song in terms of like his life and where he's at and where the band is at. And like, sometimes it's got to just be a lot of fun for them to just like play a song like that, play a song like Zero, and just, rock out on stage with your good buddies. What are your thoughts, Marco?
I mimic almost all of that. I am a big supporter of a beloved like set 1-y song in the middle of set 2. The Wedge I did not expect. I liked that call a lot. It was really fun. Nobody doesn't like the Wedge, and it's a little low energy compared to what they had been playing, but it's also not low energy, and it's a lot of fun. And if that had been the Wedge, or I'm sorry, if that had been something like NICU or something like that, I would have been just as happy, because just because it's the middle of the second set doesn't mean I don't love the Wedge.
That's a great call. That's a great point, Marco. Like, I don't think of it that way sometimes, but yeah, that's spot on.
Thank you.
set 1 standard song in the middle of set 2 kind of throws you off in like a way that can, when it's like the right pick, it can feel really nice.
Yeah, for sure. I think the Wedge and then Farmhouse might have been a little too low energy, 2 songs in a row, but I also really like Farmhouse. I echo everything Derek said about the appeal of it now. And then Numberline and Zero are standards, but they're high energy, and I didn't mind seeing them. And I think one great piece of perspective is I took a friend to his first show at the Man. He'd never seen any Fish show ever. And at the end of the day, I asked him what he thought. And he really loved it. And his biggest takeaway was how much he loved Walls of the Cave, a song that I normally groan a little bit about because I've seen that close a second set about 100 times. And it's like, okay, cool, Walls of the Cave to close this out. But he, at the end of the Tweezer Fest show with Isabella in the middle of that, he was like, Walls of the Cave was unbelievable. And I'm like, you know what? Maybe I just see this band so much that a Character Zero is not going to excite me anymore. But that is such a good performance. It was so much fun. And yeah, I see the complaint. I see why you would have preferred something else here. But you're right. They're still a rock band, and they really play that well.
Yeah, one of my favorite memories of seeing Fish is taking a buddy similar to you, his first Fish show, and it was an okay show. Like I had a good time. It wasn't the best show I've ever been to, but he at the end of the second set is losing his mind to Character Zero, and he is not listening to Fish like outside of like going to see them in concert and seeing that moment and seeing like the power that band has by playing just like 3 chords in a way that you do sometimes lose touch with when you listen to them over and over again, like those simple moments of them playing a rock song and just their spin on it can really affect people in a really cool way. What about you, RJ? What were your big complaints last night? No, I'm totally kidding there.
I mean, after 60 minutes of jamming, like whatever, it doesn't matter. I mean, just do whatever. You guys had much more articulate ways of saying that, but it's like, I mean, I thought that was a really, really solid show. And like the Numberline thing is always going to get me. I'm slightly disappointed that it's not going to be played this weekend, probably the 3 shows I'm seeing, but it's okay because you guys got to hear it. I think it's a great when that happens. Yeah, I mean, the fourth quarter thing is always, especially after a third quarter, if that's how you look at it, like that, it doesn't matter. I would have been exhausted and like just kind of riding the wave to the end, I mean, it's hard for me to stack it unless you're expecting like, a perfect show. And if you're expecting a perfect show, you probably should, maybe take up another hobby because that's not really how it works, So I don't know. I thought the show, like the end flowed kind of, it slowed down for sure, but it flowed well. And I think it worked, it's my take.
I'm right there with you guys.
No offense to anyone who is looking for perfection.
All the offense. There was a perfect show on 7/25/99, but we don't need to return to that theme. I've already said my piece. I do just want to point out really quick. This is serendipitous because Matt Higgins is going to be our guest to recap Jones Beach Night 1, and I didn't say this already, so I can't claim any sort of ownership. And I didn't say it because I thought I might be thinking a little bit too abstract, but I think Matt is onto something. I agree with him fully here. A Wave of Hope in A Song I Heard the Ocean Sing was flashbacks to The Drowned, A Song I Heard the Ocean Sing from The Baker's Dozen. I felt that at a time last night where A Wave of Hope just goes deep, and it's this like deep late night jamming the way that Drowned was. And there were moments where A Song I Heard the Ocean Sing felt like it was just going to fall apart completely. And then it somehow found this like just brilliant melodic jam that like it peaked over the last 6 or 7 minutes. So great observation there, Matt. We cannot wait to hear your thoughts about Jones Beach. Derek and Marco, any final thoughts you guys have as Derek, you are back to normal life? All you get to experience from Fish is through a TV screen. Yeah. Marco, you got a two more show run. Derek, any last thoughts about the summer tour thus far, about the Hartford show?
Well, I love the encore. I mean, tube versus tube. That's like for standard songs, that's about as good as you can get for an encore right there. And I mean, we heard First Tube finish it out in Bangor, but like, I don't care. I mean, that song is just like a adrenaline shot to your heart, totally. To end a show. Like, there aren't very many better ways to end a show than that, other than like, say, The Lizards, but that's because that's my all-time favorite Fish song. So, I'm always sort of hoping for a Lizards encore when I go, but I try not to be greedy. But I just thought it was a great show, great that, some excellent jams there, and then a nice run of high energy stuff to finish it out, and a great encore to send everybody home happy. Like, I'm really excited to see what the rest of the tour holds, and I'll be, of course, listening to every single one, and hopefully we can make some connections to some of the stuff that they were doing last night as they go, well, in the night before too, and the night before that. It feels to me, I mean, the Down with Disease in Bangor was really awesome, but it was so far above anything else in the show that it kind of really, really overshadows it. Whereas both nights in Bethel and last night, there's a bunch of different pieces that you can point to. And I bet, if you ask people, there's going to be different favorite jams in every show, and those are the type of shows that I like to see, where you could ask 5 people and they might all say that their favorite jam was a different one. So I hope we get more of that, these type of sets, like last night and in the past couple nights. So I'm excited.
It's a good problem to have when that happens. How about you, Marco? How are you feeling at this point, and what are you hoping for tomorrow in Jones Beach?
I'm hoping for Patient Fish and also Iculus. I'm just kidding. I'm hoping for a lot more of the same. And I think my final thought is I've really this tour been thinking back to a previous episode of the show where you featured that special about Trey's switch to high gain amplifiers. And I really enjoyed that episode. I listened to it twice because I've noticed this change in recent years. I haven't been able to put any intelligent conversation to it myself. I've just noticed it, and I've seen his rig changing. But learning about the difference about this Trainwreck amp and what it is offering, it was something that I went into this tour with my ears really directed towards. And it's really fascinating. And I think the description of it from the show was something to the effect of, it's going to sound great when you're playing it quietly and clean. And as soon as you add any amount of extra effort into playing the strings, you're going to hear that gain kicking in, and anything you play perfectly is going to sound perfect, and anything with any flaw in it whatsoever is going to come through every speaker in the area. And man, it's such a cool sound to hear. And last night, the quiet parts of Blaze On, and especially the solo during Farmhouse, there are times where you can hear his pick slightly scrape against the string. I noticed that during Farmhouse, and there's distortion on this pick scrape. And then when he goes from quiet to loud in the same musical phrase, it just starts screaming, and it's really tremendous, and it's something worth paying attention to for anybody going to a show coming up.
Well, I appreciate you mentioning that. Shout out to Ryan Chicheri of Trey's Guitar Rig. I have nothing intelligent to offer to conversations with him. I just follow along and let him take us where it's going to go, because that dude is he's something else. And I appreciate you listening to that and shouting it out. That definitely learned a lot going into this tour as well. Well, Marco and Derek, this was a total pleasure. You guys are both welcome back anytime. We would love to have further perspectives from you guys. I'm so glad you both got incredible shows this weekend and got to experience the first part of this tour. Safe travels, Marco, ahead of the shows tomorrow, and we'll see you guys both a little bit further down the road.
Thanks so much for having me. Really appreciate it. And thank you guys, for doing this every show. It's always so much fun to listen to. It makes, tour time even better.
I appreciate you saying that, man. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.
Thank you so very much.
See you guys soon. Thank you. All right. We are crossing into an important part of this tour, RJ. Do you know that? Last night would have been the Deer Creek Night 3 show. We are now in just open waters, and we are going to Jones Beach. We're going to Raleigh. We're going to Merriweather. we've got some incredible venues coming up here, and the band is playing well. Are you excited?
Yeah, I'm excited. I get to take one of my best friends to his third Phish show ever on Friday night in Raleigh.
That's incredible.
And then I'm going to Merriweather with some good friends. I mean, you know, it's an exciting time to be able to see some more shows for sure. And I also want to say thanks to Matt Higgins for coming to our Ardmore show. He said hi. He was there before the man shows last Monday, and it was great to see you there, Matt. So thank you, and thanks to everyone who showed up and came and hung out with us. Yeah, it's gonna be great, man.
It's gonna be awesome. We will be back on Wednesday, July 27th, 1 p.m. Eastern, to cover night 1 of Jones Beach. We will have Matt Higgins on to talk with us about that show, give us his recap from inside the building, and we'll continue to talk about this tour that is evolving in a very cool way. Thanks, everyone, for hanging with us. Thank you all for listening. We'll talk with you all here soon.